Panzer and Associate, Scout Galley, Book 2, written and read by Jerry Hart. Prologue. And now, the TV announcer said, the series finale of Bad Logic. Hurry up, Mom, Garth said. It's starting. I'm coming, Mom replied as she walked into the living room with a bowl of popcorn. What does series finale mean? Garth asked. Mom sighed. It means it's the last episode. Ever? Garth sounded distraught. Yes, sweet baby, ever. But why? His 8-year-old mind couldn't process this. He and Mom had been watching the show for years. How could it end? Well, she said, all things end. It's a fact of life. It's no one's fault. Garth stared at Mom for a moment. He still didn't get it. After this episode, there won't be any more? Mom combed her long blonde hair behind her ears, and Garth noticed her eyes shining more than they had been a minute ago. Was she crying? It's a sad day, sweet baby, she said. I've always loved this show, from the very first episode. She wiped at her eyes. And now it's over. After 7 years, the show is finally over. I don't think I'm ready. Garth wondered what he could do to make his mom feel better. She was clearly sad. Then it came to him. He knew what would make her feel better, because it made her laugh every time he did it. He crossed his eyes and stuck out his tongue. As soon as Mom saw it, she burst into laughter. Don't do that. Your face will get stuck that way. I don't care, he said. All right. Thank you, love. I feel better. Now let's watch the episode. They watched the opening credits. A man dressed in a skin-tight white suit approached a shiny machine. Scientists surrounded and applauded him. Garth clapped as well. He did it every time. The scientist, Dr. Mason Campbell, used the machine to travel back in time in order to prevent a catastrophic event. Unfortunately, the machine sent him back to his 5-year-old self. He remembered everything from his adulthood, and when the people around Mason looked at him, they saw a child. Mason then had to work toward preventing the event as that child. For some reason, Mason changed dramatically in looks after the second season. I still can't believe they got rid of August Dickerson, Mom said. The show hasn't been the same since. Why did they get rid of him? Garth asked. She'd never explained it to him. The woman who produced the show doesn't take criticism well. August complained about the scripts, so she replaced him. The newer Mason walked along a barren landscape alone. Nothing was going on in the episode so far. Otherwise, Mom and Garth wouldn't be conversing. But Garth had to understand. They watched as Mason approached a crater in the middle of this landscape. Something bad had happened there, but Garth didn't know what. Yet. His heart raced with the possibilities. Did Mason fail his mission? Suddenly, a boom startled the little boy. It had come from somewhere in the house rather than the TV. Mom sighed and pulled Garth closer. Your dad's home. Damn everything, Dad yelled. Taking almost all my paycheck for fucking healthcare. He walked into the living room, wearing a dirty blue shirt and matching pants. I guess the money's going to good use with you two sick fucks going to the hospital all the time. Yes, dear, Mom said. Dad suddenly stopped in place and glared at her. You getting smart with me, woman? Garth gave up trying to pay attention to the show and, instead, stared at his dad. The man was mostly bald, with light brown hair ringing his head. He reminded Garth of that loud, short man on the show Seinfeld. However, Garth liked that man. He hated his dad. "Not this shit again," Dad yelled, looking at the TV. "When are they gonna cancel this shit?" "This is the last episode," Mom said, wiping her eyes again. "Good. Goddamn nerds keep turning out this sci-fi crap. I bet they don't ever get no pussy." "The show was created by a woman." "Well, that's embarrassing, isn't it?" Dad laughed. "That's where the stink is." He went to the kitchen, mumbling. Mom smiled at her son. "Let's get back to the show." They attempted to watch in peace as Dad moved throughout the house, cursing. As the show continued, Garth grew agitated. Not at Dad, but at the program. He couldn't believe it, but he found himself bored. Mason didn't do anything of interest except constantly talk to characters who came out of nowhere. Garth jumped in surprise when Dad sat directly next to him. The boy found himself sandwiched between his parents. Dad guzzled a canned beer as he joined them in watching the show. Garth gained the courage to lean against his father, the way a son should. Even at 8 years of age, Garth knew sons shouldn't be afraid of their fathers. Dad looked down at him for a second, chuckled, but didn't place an arm around him. Garth could smell the stink of hard work, but he didn't care. It was a familiar smell. The family watched the rest of the series finale. Though it didn't get any better, Garth still enjoyed this time with his family. It was a rare occurrence to have all three in the same room without shouting or anger. Though the little boy grew sleepy, he tried to keep his eyes open. He didn't want to miss the last episode of his favorite show. He couldn't miss it. Sometime later, Mom shook him awake. "Time for bed, sweet baby." Garth rubbed his eyes. He was lying flat on the couch. Dad was gone. Garth immediately looked at the TV and saw the show was over. "Oh no!" he yelled, sitting up quickly. "It's all right," said Mom. "You can catch it again later." She rubbed her eyes. "Was it good?" he asked her. "It was what it was." She picked him up and carried him to his bed. Along the way, he saw Dad in the kitchen, drinking another beer. Dad saw him and then turned his back, shaking his head. Garth wondered wearily what that was about. After Mom placed Garth in bed, she sang to him. He smiled. She sang this song almost every night, and it was the most beautiful lullaby he'd ever heard. Whenever she tried to sing a different one, he always stopped her and asked for this song. Mom cried throughout the entire song. "What's wrong, Mom?" "I just can't believe it's over." "Did you like it?" he asked. She hadn't given him a satisfactory answer earlier. "It wasn't what I expected it to be," she said after a brief pause. "I wish it was better." "What happened to Mason?" he asked. He died, sweetie." "What?" He sat up quickly. "Lie back down. It's time for bed." "Mason died? How? Why?" "He sacrificed himself to save the world. It was a noble end." "Then why aren't you happy with it?" Mom shook her head and sighed. "I keep thinking you're too young to understand such adult things, but maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes people have to do certain things in order to make things right. Sometimes those things aren't what you want them to be." "How did you want it to end, Mom?" I wanted Mason to save the world and live. Why didn't it end that way, then? Because the show's producers had different ideas than mine. She kissed Garth's forehead. Now go to sleep and have sweet dreams. As he lay down, he watched his mom close the door slowly, smiling at him the whole time. She seemed very sad about the show, sadder than he'd ever seen her. He still couldn't believe he fell asleep during it. He felt ashamed. After a few minutes, he fell asleep again. A scream woke him up. "You stupid bitch! How could you?" It was Dad. Garth jumped out of bed and ran into the hallway. His parents' bedroom door was open. Garth ran in and saw Dad standing by his bathroom door, looking in. Garth slowly walked up to him. Dad was staring at something that angered him. He was so intent on it that he didn't notice his son until he was right next to him. By then, it was too late. Garth saw his mother in the bathtub. Her eyes were open, her skin whiter than he'd ever seen it. The water was so red. Water wasn't supposed to be red.